Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, they're both up for contracts. Daniel Jones did not have a great statistical season. What can he really stand on, Matt, to say, okay, I need 35 million a year?
Barkley is the heart and soul of the team. You know, he's a guy that
I know
was so important to the offense.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
All right, so we mentioned the Giants there as a potential landing spot there for Keenan Allen. But the Giants have a very interesting offseason, and we've talked about this ad nauseum as well. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, they're both up for contracts. Now, Daniel Jones, he just switched midstream. He just switched his agent, man. He wants more guaranteed money. He wants more average salary as well. Giants like, yeah, go for it. We'll just franchise tag you, pal. Look. Bottom line is Daniel Jones did not have a great statistical season. I would say this: Daniel Jones did make an improvement with Brian Daboll as a quarterback in 2022 versus 2021. Now, where does that leave him in the hierarchy of things? I don't know. I'll leave that up to the professionals, but I would be surprised if this guy averaged, 25 to 28 million per year, which is apparently what he is looking for. So I don't know.
Oh, he's looking for way more than that. He wants like 30.
He wants 30 per?
Dude, and I mean, if they franchise tag him, the franchise tag for quarterbacks is like 32.4 million.
What can he really stand on, Matt, to say, okay, I need 35 million a year? Like, where does he, I guess, how does he go about doing that?
Well, the problem right now is just that the NFL has no middle class in terms of quarterbacks.
Correct.
Like, who are the middle class quarterbacks right now? Like, remember when guys like Andy Dalton and even like Colin Kaepernick got those like middle class quarterback deals? Like, who is that right now?
I mean, I'd probably say like Geno Smith, Jared Goff is like the classic middle class quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah, but think about, I get that, but I'm talking about like from a contract standpoint, like
right.
It's
all or nothing. It's all or nothing.
Dude, it really is all or nothing right now. Jared Goff, that he's making like 30 million against the cap this year. And I mean, Geno is another guy who's entering the last year of his contract. So he'll be in free agency this year. He's a guy who could get franchise tagged right now this year. So, and I mean, we saw a guy like Derek Carr, who I think would potentially be a perfectly good candidate for the quarterback middle class. He just got cut, right? Because they didn't want to pay him that. Like right now, Jared Goff, $33.5 million per year as a quarterback. And that's again,
number 10.
Yeah, and you think that that's like the quarterback middle class, and I would agree with you. I mean, Carson Wentz, he's not going to play on this, but he's probably going to get cut or traded or whatever. 32 per year salary. Ryan Tannehill's like 29.5, and Tannehill's a guy who's he's like in that middle class, I think too. Dak Prescott signed a $40 million deal. Matt Stafford, $40 million deal. Kirk Cousins, the consummate middle class quarterback, is like $35 million a year right now. So if Daniel Jones is standing on something, it would be that.
I will say this: in 16 games last year, this man threw 15 touchdowns. That's interesting to say the least when you've got 15 touchdowns over 16 games. Now, I will say this: obviously improved his turnover ratio as well. Just 5 interceptions last year, which would be a career low. I won't add in all his rushing numbers as well. Obviously, he does some stuff on the ground. He had 7 rushing touchdowns as well. So, yeah, a good runner, right? Obviously gets into a little bit of trouble too with the fumbles there, but again, he absolutely shored that up too, right? So just 6 fumbles last year, and I don't even think those were all fumbles lost.
I think this is probably what's going to end up happening is they're going to franchise tag him and then just like say, it just makes perfect sense. It does bring up complications for another player that we're going to talk about here with Saquon Barkley. Like, what do you do with Barkley then? But we'll get to that in a second. But for the Daniel Jones thing exclusively, like, why would you not want to just franchise tag him $32 million, whatever, it is what it is, and see if he takes another jump in the second year playing with Brian Daboll. Now, there's obviously risks to that because let's just imagine
the Kirk Cousins situation.
You're right. Let's just imagine that, or Dak Prescott, right? Because like the
Yeah.
Cowboys clearly, for different reasons, didn't want to commit to Dak Prescott at the time, and then he goes out and he has big numbers, he gets hurt, and then they still have to give him the extension because it's like, well, what are we gonna do? What if Daniel Jones goes and, like, just in a hypothetical world, balls the F out because we know he wasn't surrounded by receiving talent last year? They let's say they get a Jacoby Myers or a Juju, they get some, and they draft a guy, and maybe they take a big swing on a Keenan Allen or a DeAndre Hopkins, something like that. Maybe another wide receiver we're not thinking about becomes available on the trade market. Of course, all that stuff gets more complicated when you start having a $32 million quarterback on your salary books and Daniel Jones. Right. I don't know. I think that Jones, I don't want to take too much away from him because I think he took dramatic improvements in his game and made big leaps this past year in a steady environment. We expect that environment to continue. Daboll's back. Mike Kafka didn't get a head coaching job. He's back.
Right.
Their receiver core should only get better. Their offensive line, some of the youth on it, like Evan Neal, should get better. But my God, I mean, are you really going to commit this to Daniel Jones? I don't know. If I was the Giants, I would just franchise tag it and see what he does next year, because then if you just let him walk at the end of next season, if he doesn't show another step of improvement, now you potentially have a really nice spot for a rookie quarterback or a distressed asset quarterback to come in here afterwards.
Right. So if Daniel Jones does get franchised, and it is kind of sort of looking like they want to go that direction, well, that kind of leaves Saquon Barkley twisting in the wind there. And I think Saquon himself, in this, when the Giants were kind of coming to a close, talked about he'd be okay with a franchise. He'd be okay with a moderate deal. I don't think he's looking to break the bank here to stay with New York. I think it's a savvy move, though, by the Giants, because, again, you look at the running back market, Matt, and man, there's a lot of great running backs that are unrestricted free agents. And then on top of that, what I'm hearing about the draft class as well, everything that I'm reading and seeing about the draft class, there's a lot of great running backs in this draft too. So, boy, Saquon Barkley would obviously be the blue chipper of that group. But you look at this group, man, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, even Jamal Williams, who, again, he was a bane to fantasy managers, but in real life, this dude was a value add for the Detroit Lions. You know what I mean? Tony Pollard in that mix. I thought Deontay Foreman played really good football. There's just a lot of names out there that, could drive the overall market price for running backs down, because, man, there are a lot of great supply is much higher than demand right now.
Yeah. And how many like wide open depth charts are there where it's like, all right, you drop a guy in there and you move heaven and earth to get Saquon Barkley, move heaven and earth to get Josh Jacobs or something like that. That's going to be pretty tough. Okay. Let's say the Giants, they franchise tag Daniel Jones, and Joe Shane, the general manager, did kind of seem like at his year-end presser, he was more like warm and fuzzies when talking about Daniel Jones. And, we know that this is like a forward thinking front office that probably does believe in, like, look, we need to build out of the passing game. We know Joe Shane is like a salary cap guy. He's probably, puckering a little bit when he thinks about giving Saquon Barkley, like, the one of these game changing running back contracts. But damn, dude, like, Barkley is the heart and soul of the team. He's a guy that
I know.
was so important to the offense. Like, imagine that offense with like Matt Breida and instead of Saquon Barkley. Like, I know we think about running back, like you said, running backs don't matter. The production is replaceable. Well, certain guys are definitely above that baseline and are game changers. Barkley absolutely is one of those. Think about the game against Washington, the second one. Like, he was dominant in that game. He was like a transcendent type of player, and their offense was just so much better because of that. So it's tough to imagine them just letting him walk. But I mean, if he doesn't get the franchise tag, like, if you're Barkley, why wouldn't you then test the market? And then I think, things are mildly interesting. Like with the Bears, we'll always talk about the Bears when it comes to money to burn, because they got it, baby. But like, you're a run-based offense with Justin Fields. Like, why not just break the bank for a guy like Barkley? When you have 90-something million in cap space to make the offense better.